balancing the budget and reforming government.
Good evening. Tonight we're going to talk about how to solve the problems that we defined that face our country.
Coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to defend America, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
So a country that needed to be reconstructed was plunged into a deep humanitarian crisis that destroyed its middle class, weakened to an extreme level its state's institution and infrastructures. So we had, before the sanction, a free and strong education system, a good healthcare system, so a functioning state. And then, so this is the situation, you know, that characterized Iraq in 2003 when the invasion happened. So.
Kids made a promise to each other that we would sit hands clasped together on your parents' front lawn, and we would watch as the planes came and the mushroom clouds erupt and then swallow up the city and the mountains and the ocean. We never thought that we would live long enough to be fathers. I'm still doubtful, but I dream of it, and I hope that I am wrong.
And I want to say that.
Broken your promise, now we got a brand new enemy. We'll find our way to go. We'll find our way to go. You've broken your promise. We always got a brand new enemy. We'll find our way to go together.
The U.S. has also lost about 4,500 soldiers in Iraq and some more than 22,000 wounded.
In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed. Journalists and inspectors should leave Iraq immediately. Many Iraqis can hear me tonight in a translated broadcast, and I have a message for them.
There's good guys and there's bad, and the freedom needs protecting. That protection comes from weapons, but those weapons escalate much further than the point they make, and the impact will create nothing.
When I saw this email asking GCHQ's help to bug the 6 swing nations to get a vote for war with Iraq, I was very angry at first and very saddened that it had come to this.
As the British government says it's identified the person who leaked cables that forced out the British ambassador to the United States for calling President Trump inept, we look at the real-life political thriller of a British intelligence specialist who risked everything to blow the whistle on U.S. dirty tricks at the United Nations in the lead-up to the Iraq invasion.
The next time I run a war, I'll remember. The risk to my career was minute compared to the upcoming war in Iraq, and the best thing to do for me was to leak this information to the press so that everybody else could have the information, and hopefully it could avert this disastrous course of events that have occurred.
It seems like there's an effort to manage the news in an unmanageable situation. They tried it in the first Gulf War. This time it was supposed to be different.
Thank you very much for giving us that level of detail.
In 2003, Catherine Gunn was working for Britain's government communications headquarters, known as GCHQ, the intelligence agency similar to the National Security Agency here, when she opened a top-secret NSA memorandum. The highly confidential memo revealed the United States was collaborating with Britain in collecting sensitive information on United Nations Security Council members in order to pressure them into supporting the Iraq invasion.
They buried the lead, and they're pretty good at it.
Guided by her conscience, Catherine Gunn defied her government and leaked the memo to the press, setting off a chain of events that jeopardized her freedom, her safety, but also opened the door to putting the entire Iraq invasion on trial.
struggle for us because the last thing you want to do is broadcast to the world, which includes your enemy,
military campaign,
exactly where your troops are,
it will be
exactly
directed
what
against
they're
the
doing,
lawless men
or
who
exactly
rule
when
your
they'll be
country,
there, or what they plan on.
and not against you. Your fate will depend on your actions, and it will be no defense to say, I was just following orders.
Well, the fighting has yet to end, and the death toll may never be known. Conservative estimates put the Iraqi civilian death toll at 200,000, but some counts range as high as 2 million. In 2006, the British medical journal Lancet estimated 600,000 Iraqis died in just the first 40 months of the war.
First of all, in destroying what was left of the states, its institutions and services that provide basic human needs to the society, that makes a functioning society, so access to running water, electricity, a welfare state. And it was done through what was called the debassification campaign, so that disbanded the army and part of the administrative basis of the regime. And also, something that is very important and that we have to, remind ourselves to understand what is going on today, the rise of ISIS, etc., is that the US administration created a political system based on what I call in my research ethno-sectarian quota. In other words, is to say that the US administration has institutionalized racism in Iraq. So it has created a political regime that, relies on communal-based identity. So in Iraq, in 2003, or since 2003, you are not just a political leader defined by your belief, your political belief. So as a communist, a nationalist, an Islamist, you are an Arab political leader, a Kurdish political leader, a Sunni, Shi'i, or Christian political leader. And this really is at the core of what, provoked the social, ethnic, and sectarian fragmentation and the sectarian war in the country. As well, we have to say that the US administration brought to power a political elite that, had mainly lived in exile since, for example, for some of them since the 80s, so very much disconnected with the realities on the ground. And even for those political exiles who had some legitimacy, some political legitimities inside the country, they have lost this legitimacy because they have proved to be extremely sectarian, extremely conservative, and extremely corrupted as well.